Moral epistemology, a branch of metaethics, has been topical for a long time on YouTube. Many cogent, well-thought arguments have been exchanged, and many views have been altered. However, two general positions have emerged from these debates, and I find both unsatisfactory. These two positions are moral justificationism and moral nihilism, and in opposition to these I want to tentatively suggest moral non-justificationism according to a fallibilistic, critical rationalist perspective informed by Karl and David Hume, a perspective that comes from the ideas of taking children seriously as developed by David Deutsch and Sarah Fitzclarage, autonomous parenting as developed by Dr. Jan Fortune Wood, and the general application of Popperian thinking by many, as well as discussions with a friend, Tanya Davidson, who convinced me of the errors of moral nihilism. Firstly, I am entirely aware that these three views encompass many different metaethical positions. A moral nihilist might be a non-cognitivist, or proponents of moral error theory. A moral justificationist might be Christians believing that God is the source of morality, or Randian objectivists who believe that life is the foundation for values. And moral non-justificationism exists in more guises than the one I support. I simplify the issue only out of necessity, my knowledge and time limitations, and not preference. Moral justificationism fails because of Hume's guillotine, or, as it is also known, the is-ought problem. Originally conceived by Scottish philosopher David Hume in his famous A Treatise of Human Nature, an outstanding work written when Hume was only 26 years old, it states the problem as follows. In every system of morality which I have hitherto met with, I have always remarked that the author proceeds for some time in the ordinary ways of reasoning, and establishes the being of a god, or makes observations concerning human affairs, when all of a sudden I am surprised to find that instead of the usual copulations of propositions is and is not, I meet with no proposition that is not connected with an ought or an ought not. This change is imperceptible, but is however of the last consequence, for as this ought or ought not expresses some new relation or affirmation, 'tis necessary that it should be observed and explained, and at the same time that a reason should be given for what seems altogether inconceivable, how this new relation can be a deduction from others which are entirely different from it. It is worth noting that Hume includes both God and observations concerning human affairs as possible justifications. Whether or not the justification for morality is supernatural, religious, or natural, secular, is irrelevant to the argument. In brief, Hume ended simplistic justificationism in morality with his guillotine as surely as he ended it in scientific epistemology with his problems of induction. I have yet to encounter a convincing solution, although many have been proposed. An example, oft repeated on YouTube, is a reply given by Ayn Rand, and I will link to a criticism of this in the description box. That is not to say a solution is impossible. Philosophy is dependent on going against expectations and solving seemingly insoluble dilemmas. However, for the time being, a convincing solution has yet to be revealed to me. Another less significant problem with moral justificationism is moral plurality. If morality has a clear, rationally accessible justification, then moral certainty would be attainable, and one would expect moral homogeny amongst all rational people. The reality is quite different. We see moral variation in nearly every culture, subculture, family, and person, and the quantity of nuanced and opposing moral positions seems to increase rather than decrease in rational, non-dogmatic social environments, all of which leads us to moral nihilism, although I would not say this is inexorable. Moral nihilists in various ways come to the same conclusion concerning moral justificationism, namely that morality has no justification and that moral claims cannot be grounded in certainty. In their conclusions, although not always in their arguments, they are right and should be congratulated. However, they go further in stating that there is therefore no rational way to differentiate between moral and immoral claims, that such claims are inherently meaningless or erroneous. This is because they share the same justificationist epistemological bent of the position they have refuted. In this sense, moral nihilism is only a partial opposition. They entirely agree with their opponents that a claim needs justification, only they disagree that such justification is possible. It is my view that this is false, and that it is necessary to take a more radical contraposition. Moral nihilism amounts to epistemological pessimism. It is premature abandonment of rationality in favor of a position that offers no means to conduct normative discourse. Such a position is dangerous in that it has no rational way of differentiating between the rightness or wrongness of an action, of differentiating between, for example, killing a child and giving money to cancer research. It is also reducible to absurdity. If we ought to abandon rational morals because of Hume's guillotine, then we must also abandon scientific inquiry because of Hume's problems of induction. I propose an alternative, which is to say moral non-justificationism according to a fallibilistic perspective, one that advances the insights of Karl Popper's critical rationalist epistemology to meta-ethics. This has the advantage of being rational, but by resorting to refutation rather than justification. Moral claims are proposed. These claims are created as solutions to interpersonal problems. These claims are criticized, resulting in new moral claims. Each epistemic community builds up a tradition of moral positions that have survived such trial and error process. This tradition therefore has epistemological weight. This approach is fallible. It does not offer the certainty and consequential moral dogmatism of moral justificationism. All moral claims are open to criticism. All moral traditions are open to change. All we can know is the best moral claims according to the morality of our time and the traditions we can access. Culture clash is important because it encourages moral debate and therefore moral progress. For that reason, cultural isolation is harmful to moral progress. However, progress should be piecemeal so as not to lose the wealth of moral knowledge stored by fragile tradition. For this reason, radical, utopian, and revolutionary ideas are morally destructive rather than morally progressive. This approach has the advantage of being able to account for moral plurality. Because we cannot be certain about morality, it is to be expected that rational people hold different moralities. The important point is that these people can engage in rational conversations about their moral views rather than resort to irrational means to force their normative assumptions on others, such as coercion. Therefore, moral non-justificationism does not entail some kind of naive moral relativism. I hope this video has been useful and entertaining. Thanks for listening.